All right, we're back, and well, here you see we're having that data limit bug. It keeps coming up every time. I guess some people open up their flight sim. It tells them that they're all out of data, but you can see we're way down here. You know, got lots of. Anyway, you just turn it back on, click apply, and let it go. All right, so graphics, this is what we're doing. So now we're going to run the resolution at full screen, and we're going to run it with that DSR resolution. And I have the super resolution switched on here. This is from Island Sim Pilot. Island Sim Pilot has some videos on YouTube to talk about this. Now, the one thing I don't do registry edits. I don't do reg edits. So I just turned this on. I run it balanced instead of what's the other option? Quality. There's a few options, but I run it at balanced. Let's just save that real quick. And then this is the AMD Fidelity FX sharpening. Now it's sharpening. It's not just for AMD. And I run that at 120. It's just called AMD Fidelity FX sharpening. It's you know, whatever. I use it, and that's what I put it on. I have VSync on, even though I have a G-Sync monitor, but that's so that I can get to that 51 FPS cap. In other words, if I put the cap in at 51 in my video card, but I run at G-Sync, then it won't activate the 50% monitor refresh rate. This will gray out, and I don't want that, so I leave it like this. Low latency is on. Again, here's that monitor refresh rate. The reason you want to do this, if you run this wide open, you know, you like to see a high number on your refresh rate, on your frame rates, right? But the problem with that is your computer is constantly trying to hit that number, and you're not giving it any breathing space. Rendering all these frames, especially if it's a busy airport and all that stuff, while it's great, you can tell yourself, I'm getting 70, 80, 150 frames per second, but you're not really. You're getting that, you know, 10% of the time, and the rest of the time you've got a struggle going on in your black box that you don't want to hear about. It's a bloody struggle, and you know, you don't need that. Your fans are running higher, everything's maxed out, and is just trying to get you your unlimited frames. So I don't do that. I used to think, the same way, I got to have a big number. No, you don't. You need smooth frame rates, and the way to get that is to lower your computer's overhead, so it's not constantly trying to stretch to do the unlimited thing. It's just having to do an average flex to give you your reduced but still very acceptable frame rate. Right, and it frees up resources for other tasks, maybe related to frame rate, maybe not, but it just makes it easier for your computer to do that lift. All right, so I run in direct DX12. I was running DX11 before. DX12 with it does have a few graphical anomalies and problems, but they don't outweigh the benefit anymore. You get a pretty decent benefit just from going to DX12 from DX11. So that's what I do. As far as rendering quality, here is custom. That's because of all this stuff down here. So level of detail is 230. And this is after much trial and error. Off-screen terrain pre-caching. I let it do its damage there. Now see, if I was running this unlimited frames and then telling it to do this, it would struggle. And so I'd rather have these moderated, still at 51 FPS, which is, frames per second, isn't bad. But now I can open this up to ultra, off-screen terrain pre-caching, terrain vector data ultra. Buildings you can dial down. There was a really good video right after FSX came out. I'm gonna turn the music off. Right after FSX came out, this guy did the side-by-side comparison where he did he put buildings on, low, and then medium, and then the two higher settings, and then did a wash. So you'd see the first would be a building with just low resolution, and then medium, and then high. And the differences were slight. But what happens is, when you're rendering a scene with 10,000 buildings in it, and your computer's trying to render them all at the maximum setting, you know, you're putting a load on the computer, and you don't need it because, as I said, when you look at that video and you see clear side-by-side representation, you're not getting that much, you know, from the building. And you know, the flying is the thing, at least for me. If I load up a flight and get in a plane and take off and start flying, and I'm getting those micro stutters, and that's not flying. You're wiggling around in a slideshow, and there's no enjoyment. I like fluid. I want to see my frame rates pour like water. I want to see the screen, you know, the scenery flow. I don't want to see it staccato. Okay, so anyway, that's me. So buildings medium, trees medium, grass and bushes medium. There's very little difference between medium and high, and ultra just is a machine killer. So you don't, you know, unless you have a cutting edge rig. Oh, here's the thing too. What kind of rig do I have? Well, it's an i7, right? It's a 15 generation, so it's a late i7, which makes it okay, pretty good. But the card is just a GeForce. It's an RTX 2080, RTX 2080 Super. So I'm pretty much getting over 50. I mean, let's say I'm getting steadily over 42 or 43 frames per second in 4K, right? With some decent settings there. Now, because I'm running 4K, you know, texture resolution I can put on high. I don't have to have it on ultra. The clouds I can have on high. I don't need ultra. And going back up here, you know, because of the 4K, I can run an ISO at 4x and texture sampling at 4x4, but with 4K it looks terrific. I don't need 8x. I don't need, you know, the high numbers here. Texture synthesis is on medium. Water waves, I could probably bump that up a little bit, but again, you know, I do like flying over water, and there'll be times like if I'm doing an ultralight, minimal, you know, some island scenery that doesn't have a whole lot of buildings or you know, other object detail to worry about, I can bump that up, and I do that sometimes. But as a rule, these are my settings. So shadow maps 1024, terrain shadows 512. You don't need, I mean, you can you know, throw the high numbers in there, but they all affect performance. They all do this thing over here that you don't want. I don't know. I don't even know how this video is going because I kept moving the camera, but right. So where was I? 1024 on shadow maps, 512 on terrain shadows. Contact shadows medium, windshield effects medium, ambient occlusion medium, cube map 192, ray march medium, light shafts medium, bloom is on. I like bloom. Depth of field medium. You don't see that too much except in the drone camera, I believe. Motion blur, I turn that junk off. Lens correction is off. Lens flare is off. I don't use that stuff. The cockpit refresh rate, the glass cockpit, this has to do with those fancy displays, and I prefer gauges. So I could literally, I could put this on, you know, dirt if I wanted to, and wouldn't be affected. If you're running glass displays, if you're running modern cockpits, medium is fine. You don't really notice a lag on those when you're using medium. And going higher on that, again, can really hammer your performance if you run this all the way up to ultra or whatever. So this is what I do. This is how I run on my rig. And, you know, we got all this dialed in. And this, I don't know, there's not really anything else here to affect, you know, your performance. What's happening here? We got updates today. Nice. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, so that's that. I had, you know, one visitor to the channel watching. I think it was the Cessna 207, the most recent 207 video in Alaska, and want to know what my settings are. And there's just, I mean, it's such a wide. You know, there's your resolution, monitor resolution, then there's your GPU, NVIDIA settings or AMD settings or what have you, and then there's all this. And it's a lot of ground to cover. So here's the video on it, and I hope it turns out good. I'll check it out. Let's Let's do apply and save. I didn't change anything, I don't think. I'll have to go back and double check and see if I dangled something there by accident. Right. Anyway, so that's that. So there's 2 videos, and if you want to see, you know, I mean, if anybody doesn't believe what I'm talking about with computers, I mean, that's an i7, that's an RTX card, but it's a 2080 SU. It's the 2080 Super. I don't know what that means compared to the other 2080s. It was the latest iteration of the 2080 before the 3000 series came out. I don't think it really means anything. It's a 2080 RTX is all I know for sure. So there's that. It's not a crazy rig. It's an Omen HP. I bought a shelf, you know, computer. I didn't have anything custom made at all here. There's nothing custom in there. It's just an HP whatever the hell Omen with the Intel i7, and again I want to say it's a 14 or 15 generation, whatever, one of the later generation i7 chip, and it was the last version of the Omen before they jumped up in the video card from the 2 series to the 3 series RTX. All right, so there we are. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, if anybody has any questions, you know, just post them in there and I'll address them. Thanks. Bye.